Okay, welcome everyone. This is the PittNUG 15-minute webinar. Today's topic is Project 360 SuiteApp, and our presenters are Angie McCoy and Steve Spokane from Grossman, Yannick, and Ford. So you guys take it away. I'm going to mute unless you need me to speak. So.
Okay, welcome everybody. For anybody that was in the last Pittsburgh area NetSuite user group meeting, I believe that was what is
September.
We had started to touch on what NetSuite released regarding 360 dashboards. Project 360 was one of them we didn't get a deep dive on, so we wanted to just take a few minutes today to dive into that. As Rhonda mentioned, Steve and I are presenting today. Steve's had tons of experience working in the services edition of NetSuite, and so he's going to add a lot of color to my comments here. Okay, our agenda is we're going to overview of what suite projects means, because again, the Project 360 dashboard comes with the services edition of NetSuite, and the services edition includes a bundle called Suite Projects. Then we're going to introduce the dashboard, go over it, the benefits. I'm even going to do a quick little demo live of it to walk through, and then we'll take any questions that you have. So first thing is overview of Suite Projects. That's a bundle of modules that come with the NetSuite Services Edition, but you can add them on to any edition. And this Projects 360 dashboard really allows project managers to see what they can see in a regular project, but to see it in a more summarized viewpoint. So the modules included with Suite Projects are NetSuite's project management, their resource management, so you can allocate people to projects, and their basically budget versus actual costing and revenue model that goes with the projects.
It's also a way to bring in multiple projects into a single dashboard as well.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go through screenshots right now, and then I'm going to actually go to our demo set and show you how to install it, how to set it up, and all that, and give access to it. So first thing out of the box, once you install the Projects 360 dashboard and you give permission to anyone that has a project manager role in the system, and you do that by the employee record, what will show up on their canned dashboard, this is the canned Suite Success project manager dashboard that comes with the Suite Success edition of the services module. There's a tab called Projects, and on there it kind of captures your customers, the projects, the accounting, and then this is new, the Projects 360 dashboard tab. You always had these other options in the project overview, and as Steve said, they're just bundling up any of you as a project manager, any projects that you have access to. And oh, I got mine. So again, it's found in the Suite apps. It's installed free, so it's free. It allows for portlet to portlet view for project management, resource management, budgets versus actual, and it has to be permission driven by its project managers only. So here is my overview. I am playing the role of Mark Collins here. So everything I see in my project portfolio are those projects that I am assigned as the project manager. In addition, there is a reminders portlet that comes with it. These are locked reminders because as a project manager, you typically are managing not only the customer and the billing of the project movement going forward, you're also dealing with either any purchases or vendor bills or consultants that you're using on the project. So there's a reminder in there for any vendor bills that are overdue. For anyone that has NetSuite's projects, you can create the project and have project tasks assigned to those projects. So there's a reminder as you're creating projects, you can set what the start date and end date of a task is associated with that project, and it's giving you a reminder of anything overdue. Same thing overall for projects that have been started. There's typically a end date or an expected end date of the project, and there's a search for that. All of these are saved searches, so nothing, you know, crazy here. It's just pulling saved searches of data to show you on the screen. But the key thing is that it is pulling for you your projects in your portfolio and basically giving you overall status, the project ID, the name, who your customer is, the budget versus the expected, the estimated at completion dollars for the project, the percent complete, the task resolutions not resolved, meaning they haven't been completed, any tasks that are overdue, timesheets not entered. So again, if you're really monitoring a project, these are all the things that we were able to do and still are able to do without Project 360 Dashboard, but it does give you a nicer, quicker shot of where you are with your project, unpaid invoices and so on. Okay. This is the example of just one of the saved searches that if you clicked on it on the reminder, it would tell you what projects are overdue. So what was the calculated end date and where are you so far on that? And again, just in regular NetSuite, it's a saved search so you can drill in and get additional detail. Once you select a project from the overall portfolio, that project opens up. And again, I'm going to show you this in real time. I just want to talk about it right now. That project opens up and provides these different levels of detail. Again, I could have gotten this on separate saved searches or separate portlets within NetSuite, but now it's nice that everything I'm looking at about this project, like these reminders now are specific to this project. And so this is the project overview, gives you the general information about the project, any tasks that you need to take. For example, if I click on update project record, it just goes to my standard UI for the project and I can update any information on it. I can also access the client's or the customer's record from here too that's associated with the project. Key performance indicators are on the standard project dashboard for the project manager, but this is showing me the key performance indicator specifically for this project. We'll go into some of this in a little bit, but I just, the primary information, when was the planned delivery date? And then again, as we noted before, the estimated completion for the value of this. So this is a small project that's set up in this demo set that we have. For anyone that uses NetSuite projects, you know that you can resource employees who are flagged as an employee that is a resource. You can assign them to a project. You can assign generic resources or named resources. So this again is giving you really quick drilling in. Here's my project. These are the people I'm working with on that project. This is kind of cool that if you had any documents attached to it, you can see the links here of those documents instead of having to go to the communication tab and finding what's. And who's your client contact? So you have the client, which is a company, and then any contact or relationships that you have would show up here. Resource planning. First tab was just the overview of the project. Now you're drilling in and seeing the resources that are assigned to the project. Again, this reminder portlet continues to come over, but it's showing you the project Gantt chart that comes with NetSuite and who is assigned what their time frame is for each of the tasks associated with the project. Again, you can get to this with the standard NetSuite project view, but it's nice to just see it this way. If you needed to make any changes, you can from here take an action of just updating the project schedule. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about in a bit from a consideration standpoint is the budget and estimated at completions tab on here. So I had mentioned before that part of the suite project is something called job costing. once you have job costing enabled and it's assigned to a project, you can create budgets for costs and revenue, and you can create those budgets at a services level. You can create them at a item level or at a billing level. And so it's like if you need to buy anything for the project, it can be part of the project budget. If you are using third-party consultants, those can be added into the budget as well. If you're doing your internal services, every resource assigned to a project is assigned a service item, and that service item has associated a cost, and you can set up billing rates if you're doing time and material versus fixed. So there's some setup involved, but once you have the project set up, you can start creating what a baseline is for the project. So right when the project's created and you implement the budget onto that project, you hit something that calls establish or initiate baseline.
Yeah, set as baseline, yep.
Yep, and then as you go on, NetSuite's calculating the estimate at completion. Now for this project, because again, it's a short one and it's small, these are equal. But if you're on a larger project that's going to span months, you can reset baselines, but typically you set the initial baseline. And then if you reset it within itself, it's telling you what happened here. You went up 10% from the initial. And the estimate at completion would vary too as you were moving along. And it gives you, again, a nice visual. This means nothing if you don't understand the setup of how you set the project up with the initial budgets. So we're going to talk about that in the consideration. Steve, do you want to touch on this portlet view of the budget versus actuals by the workbench?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like the WBS is really just it's the work breakdown structure, and it's really just a more detailed budget that you can actually use, bringing in the project tasks and bringing in activity codes, which many of you might not be using, but you can start to leverage where on your actual transactions. So if you have sales orders or purchase orders that you want to tag this project to and hit this particular budget, you can utilize activity codes. So you could, like in this example, ERP consulting or expenses could have been an activity code. So you just tag that on your transactions, and then it will match against the WBS. And then, you know, as you're tracking that, you're seeing things come along. That's where you go back to the EAC and adjust it if you see some big changes. Okay, we know we're going to need to double our budget, you know, or maybe we're way ahead and we're looking good, so we can decrease our estimate at completion. So it's just kind of a way to leverage, you know, all of those together.
Okay, and then the billing and revenue, because again, remember when you're setting up projects and they can be billable projects to a customer or they can be internal projects. If they're billable customers, the projects are billable, you can have running alongside the actual project activity, the information regarding billing and revenue. And in billing and revenue is related to not just what you're invoicing based on T&M or real time, but if you are managing deferred revenue, meaning you created a project that is at a fixed price that you're invoicing upfront, you can set that up as deferred revenue and be managing the revenue recognition against the project. Again, we could have a whole day of just going through how you set up NetSuite projects with how you want to manage billing and revenue. But in the case where you are using revenue management, you want to make sure that as you're invoicing, dollars are going into deferred, and the project based on either a percent complete or however you want to schedule it out would be recognizing that revenue over time. So again, this project that's the example is pretty straightforward, but note that I can take an action and go directly to the project to change how I want to do the billing. Do I want to do it on a billing schedule? Am I doing it on time and material? And on that billing schedule, is it fixed or is it variable based on percent complete? So I can manage that from here, and I can also manage the revenue recognition rules that are associated with the project. Am I recognizing revenue straight line the same over a period of X months, or am I recognizing it based on percent complete? And again, quick view, instead of having to go to the project and look at the related records tab to see what's going on, I can go straight to this dashboard and see the invoice details that are associated specifically with this project. And it takes it a step further. So if you think about standard NetSuite, right? If you have a project or you have an invoice, you got to go drill to all the related records to see how this is all hanging together. In the one view, it's kind of showing you. So if this were already paid, it would be shown. All right, and then there is the financials snapshot screen. So here it's basically showing you project profitability. If anyone is familiar with the standard NetSuite profitability report, it's set up by determining what your costs are versus what your revenue are, and you categorize the different items in NetSuite by, in this case, services or expenses. So again, if we were using service items to manage the consultants posting time to this project, that would be under an item group called services. If you were purchasing assets for a project, like you needed to buy computer equipment, whatever, there would be an item group called assets, and it would include inventory and possibly non-inventory type items. So you can build out your profitability report. There's some flexibility there, but there is also right now with Project 360 a limitation that I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay. Now, so the benefits of this thing, as I keep repeating, it provides a great one-shot visual for a project manager to see all their projects in one place and to drill into a project and see by those categories that we related quickly on one screen, the related records associated with it. The considerations. So what we found, Steve and I, in looking through this, is that if you have projects that are already in progress, and you haven't followed NetSuite's leading practices for creating and managing projects, it doesn't show as well. If you start the projects from scratch with Project 360 already installed and you followed the leading practices, this is really, really good. The one side note we wanted to make on a limitation is right now we can't customize the portlets. So, you know, for example, that reminder portlet, I would like to change some things in there if I wanted, or add other portlets in there. And right now you can't do that. In NetSuite, under the accounting list, you can define different project statuses. Like I could have a project that's awarded, in progress, and pending. These are NetSuite's 3 standard ones, but I could also have a project status that's something in between there, or my own named statuses. This 360 does not take anything into account except for those statuses when it's categorizing those. In NetSuite, you can run your resource allocation based on planned time or the resource allocation tool. Right now, the Project 360 is looking at the planned time for an employee versus actual time, rather than also including allocated time versus actual. So again, when you set up a project, you add resources to it. Those resources are putting time in their timesheet against this project. It's measuring against what you initially planned out when you created the project and assigned the resource based on a task, start and end date, versus allocating somebody to the project. Similarly, it's supporting percent work complete and not percent work complete by allocated work. So again, it's missing that resource allocation. Although you can see your resources and what's allocated in there, it's not taking the transactional activity down to that level yet. I'm assuming they're going to do that. Standard NetSuite profitability settings are like I just mentioned, you set them up. If you vary the standard greatly, it's going to impact how the actuals view. It may be fine, but just know that if you go and customize your profitability settings for that profitability report, you may impact how actuals are presented. And again, Steve mentioned this, but if you really want to check actuals properly, you need to make sure that when time is entered, for example, or any transaction that's impacting that project is created, that you are putting something in for the project task, or you're associating an activity code to it. And so that's for the calculations that we showed. All right. Steve, do you want to add anything before I jump over to the live?
No, sounds good.
Okay, real quick, because we're running out of time, and you know me, my 15 minutes I already went. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see this screen
Yeah.
now? This is NetSuite. I'm logged in into this demo set as an administrator. In order to install the Project 360 dashboard, you go to Suite Apps. You type in Project 360. And then you click on it and it'll say install up here. It'll layer in all the components needed for this. In order for it to show up though on a project manager's dashboard, you have to have project managers, right? So in the employee record for anyone that's a project manager, which again, you would already have this set up. You go into the employee record, the employee is flagged as a resource, a project resource with their default role as project manager. And under the human resource tab, they have the project manager flagged capability. So now if I shoot over to project manager here, dashboard totally changes. I am now Mark Collins. This is the standard Suite Success dashboard that has everything you need about a project. Again, everything in that Project 360, you can get to it by looking at different components and different reminders. It's just the Project 360 just shows everything much nicer. So here is the Project 360 for Mark Collins. These are all the projects that he has access to. I'm going to drill into one project, and now all of my components show up. And just as we showed before, by just clicking through here, I can effectively see what's going on the project. And so again, if at any point in time I want to change something on the project, I can just take action. And this is the view we're used to seeing. And I opened up from the billing and revenue. I opened up project billing. I come over here and it takes me right to the financials where I can adjust how I want to do billing. And again, from the financials tab, it's showing me everything about this project. Again, the project profitability reports here. But like I said, one of the downsides of this is if I really try to customize that profitability report, my actuals may not show properly on here. Steve, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, like if with that, like the service and expense, if you aren't actually matching that, it will just give you like an additional line that literally says unmatched. And that's where the actuals would end up going. So it can still get to the project, it might just not get down to your specific budget line if you don't take all those steps.
Okay. Is that it?
I guess also with that, like whenever you do open these up and you're looking like your SM at completion and your WBS, it will give you anything that's unmatched. And you can look into that, open it up and see the actual transaction. So maybe you saw an invoice that wasn't expected, or maybe a purchase order, some extra expense that wasn't expected. So now you can go take that information and add it to your EAC to increase that, or make it more accurately reflect what you're expecting.
So where would you see that? Say, like, for example, an invoice shows up that you didn't.
Yeah, so that would actually be in the WBS. So you'd have to go to the project.
Okay.
And then you would just go to the WBS tab.
Okay, yep.
And work breakdown structure. One tab over.
Right there.
And then you can edit the WBS from there.
Okay,
Yeah, and then.
so again, we could have a whole session
Yeah, we
on
could.
setting this stuff up. But, okay. I ran way over, Rhonda. Any questions from anybody?
It's okay. I knew it would happen. Anyone, questions? If you can always email me if you think of some later, we can get them answered for you. So, we will post the video or recording. And I'll let everyone know, in our PittNUG email about, when it's posted and with the presentation. And I think that's it. If no one has any questions, we are,
Thanks, everybody.
yeah, thanks everyone. Appreciate it.